Klaas Bruinsma, born on October 6, 1953, was a major Dutch drug lord. He was shot dead on June 27, 1991 by organized crime member and former police officer Martin Hoogland. He was known as De Lange, the Tall One, and also as De Dominee, the Reverend, because of his black clothing and his habit of lecturing others. Klaas Bruinsma was born in Holbeenstraat in Amsterdam as the second child of Anton Bruinsma, a Dutch entrepreneur, and Gwendolyn Theresa Mary Kelly, a British homemaker. To continue learning the story of Klaas Bruinsma, then keep watching until the end of the video. Also, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to like and hit the subscribe button. Now without further ado, let's get started. Klaas attended the De Blauwe Reger kindergarten and then the Sparta school in Amsterdam Zuid. His parents divorced when he was 7 years old. From that point forward, his father's housekeeper took over the responsibilities of raising Klaas and his siblings. Klaas's father was the founder of the Dutch soda drink manufacturer Rock. He would make Klaas and his 3 siblings clean the bottles from the factory on Sundays. During his high school years, Bruinsma started using hashish and later selling it himself. He was arrested for the first time at the age of 16 in 1970. In 1974, he opted to forego attending college in order to dedicate himself to the drug trade full-time. Thea Mauer became his business partner, and together they set up an organization. Thea is the daughter of a Dutch mobster and a Singaporean heroin smuggler. While Bruinsma was mainly involved with the purchase, transport, and distribution of the merchandise, Mauer managed the finances. She kept track of income and expenses and was also responsible for paying individuals who were hired to get rid of people who were not following instructions. Klaas Bruinsma had a rough upbringing by his violent dad. He started trafficking drugs during the very early rise in the Netherlands of cocaine and hashish in the 1970s. In 1976, Bruinsma was convicted but was later released in 1977. Upon his release, he changed his identity to Frans van Arkel, nicknamed Lange Frans. He also hired professional kickboxer Andre Brieleman as his head of security and personal bodyguard after his release from the prison. In 1978, he hired Etienne Urca as an extra bodyguard. Urca would later go on to become second in command and Bruinsma's right-hand man. By this time, Bruinsma expanded his smuggling operations, branching out to Germany, Belgium, France, and Scandinavia. In 1979, Bruinsma was convicted once again, this time for organizing a large hashish transport from Pakistan. His release came in 1982. In 1983, he was involved in a bloody shootout after some members of his organization decided to steal large stockpiles of hashish and go into business for themselves. He shot several people and was also wounded himself. In 1984, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison, but he later appealed successfully and the sentence was reduced to 3 years. During his prison sentence, Bruinsma's father, who was battling cancer, visited him and died shortly after. After his release in 1987, Bruinsma restructured his organization and branched out into hotels, casinos, gaming, brothels, and other legit forms of business. Etienne Urca replaced Thea Mauer as Bruinsma's main business partner. A new division of exploitation of gambling machines was formed under the supervision of Sam Klepper and John Miedemet, and Roy Adkins was appointed leader of the drug division. During this period, Andre Brieleman was accused of theft. He was brutally murdered by Hugo Farol, a competing hashish trader and Thea Mauer's husband. His body was encased in concrete and dumped into the river Wall. Klaas went on to become the lover of a Dutch princess, and was subsequently connected to multiple pedophile networks, high-profile lawyers, and deep politicians, often working as a handyman or fixer. Fascinatingly, he is noted by multiple leading crime sites and authors as the biggest criminal, foreign and non-foreign, to have ever operated in the Netherlands, surpassing kidnappers of the Heineken family, terrorists including Karst Royland Tates, multiple drug dealers including one president, with CIA connections, and the murderer of Pim Fortuyn. He was nicknamed the Reverend for his iconic tendency to lecture people with a ruthless demeanor in all black clothes. ISGP has his name pop up several 100 times regarding these matters. Most notably, Bruinsma and his crime syndicate were being called out by one news site as being involved at secretive parties in Amsterdam's financial district, the place where newsviewers said cocaine is mandatory, with child abuse in the 1990s. By the end of the 1980s, Bruinsma became the largest drug trader in European history. His organization was generating around $1 million Dutch guilders per day, roughly $500,000 at that time. Given his large success, Bruinsma was seriously contemplating retirement by this time in order to dedicate himself full-time into his long-life passion and hobby of sailing. However, Bruinsma had one last big job. He wanted to right his previous wrong from 1979. He was planning on transporting 45 tons of hashish from Pakistan into Holland. But this time, it was a much larger amount than what he got busted for previously. The shipment had a street value of 400 million Dutch guilders, $200 million at the time. This operation was dubbed the Big Mountain by Bruinsma and his close associates. However, the operation was unsuccessful and the shipment was seized upon arrival in the Netherlands. It was all downhill for Bruinsma from this point on. He started using cocaine and began extorting other Dutch criminals. Bruinsma and his gang often hung out at the Amsterdam luxury brothel Yab Yum. In 1990, Bruinsma and his associate Roy Adkins fought in the brothel after one of their operations had gone sour. Shots were fired, but nobody was injured and nobody talked to the police. Adkins was assassinated later that year. A newspaper article in 2006 reported that true ownership of the brothel had long been in the hands of organized crime figures, beginning with Klaas Bruinsma, who simply called it the clubhouse. After Bruinsma's death in 1991, his associates Sam Klepper and John Miramet and the Dutch Hells Angels took over control of the club. On the night of June 27, 1991, Bruinsma became involved in a verbal argument with Martin Hoogland, an ex-police officer who is now employed by organized crime. Hoogland shot Bruinsma to death in front of the Amsterdam Hilton Hotel at 4 a.m. Hoogland was murdered in 2004 while being on parole. Oddly enough, Bruinsma did not leave a last will and testament, and his brothers and sisters did not accept anything from his inheritance, so most of it went to his mother. The sailboats Amsterdam and the Nilja Jacoba were confiscated by the Dutch Revenue Service. On October 2, 2003, a former bodyguard of Bruinsma, Charlie de Silva, declared on the television show of Peter R. de Vries that Mabel Weiss-Smit had been a very close friend of Bruinsma and had been a regular guest on his yacht. Weiss-Smit, who at that point was engaged to Prince Friso, had told Prime Minister Jan-Peter Balkenende and Queen Beatrix that she had only been slightly acquainted with Bruinsma. Because of this incident, the Dutch government decided not to request permission from Parliament for the marriage, causing Prince Friso to lose his claim to the Dutch throne after his marriage to Weiss-Smit. Perhaps it was his cool image, or his sharp dressing sense, or even his gangster charm that catapulted De Lange into being a cult hero in the Netherlands. While he doesn't get much scrutiny, primarily for being idolized as old-school classic mafia as seen in movies like The Godfather, some of his connections seem to go much further than most people would realize. Bruinsma's money launderer was the judicial advisor for Queen Beatrix. He was explicitly named during his tenure as a judge in Amsterdam. The state police of Utrecht was connected to Bruinsma according to a parliamentary inquiry. Upon hearing rumors citing her being seen with the leading Dutch drug lords of the 1980s, 10 years after Bruinsma had been assassinated, Mabel Weiss-Smit denied any contact with criminals when revealing to being romantically involved with Prince Friso. The rumors almost disappeared down the memory hole until investigative journalist Peter R. de Vries interviewed Chilean national Charlie de Silva, a high-ranking bodyguard of Klaas Bruinsma, the main drug lord in question, who revealed she lied about how she knew Bruinsma and how close and intense lovers they were in 1989. Bruinsma was already at that point the leading boss for drug trafficking in the Netherlands. After announcing the engagement of Prince Friso with Mabel in June, Prime Minister Jan-Peter Balkenende wrote in a letter to Parliament that Mabel Weiss-Smit had given incomplete and incorrect information about the duration and extent of her contacts with the known drug lord, and that because of this, the government had decided not to seek permission for the marriage from Parliament. Mabel Weiss-Smit and the prince married in Delft on April 24th. Because he did not ask the Dutch Parliament for permission to marry as per law, Prince Friso ceased being a member of the royal house and forfeited his and his future children's succession rights. Therefore, neither Princess Mabel nor their daughters are members of the royal house. In 2007, a TV series titled The Prince and the Girl was released on Dutch public broadcasting about Smit and Bruinsma. The story gained some controversial attention for implying Smit and Bruinsma shared cocaine, and Sasirbe, the Bosnian ambassador to the Minister of Foreign Affairs and vital member of the Dayton Agreement, and Smit massively played a role in the fall of Yugoslavia, which was the actual reason Prime Minister Jan-Peter Balkenende did not allow the marriage. The TV series was not pulled and no lawsuit has been made, although Friso and Smit did try to alter something confirmed by Wikipedia admins, that Mabel's father, a banker of Rabobank, was rumored to have been involved with Bruinsma, raising further questioning. Bruinsma was, according to the official narrative, shot by a former commander of the Amsterdam Police Division, Martin Hoogland, in the summer of 1991, who had started working for the Yugoslavian Mafia. His autobiography remarks he had lost the leadership at this point because of his cannabis business and had become a cocaine addict. Dutch police and the AIVD were allegedly in a yes-no argument and a turf war regarding where and if Bruinsma's file still existed. Just to pepper in an eerie detail, Hoogland himself was assassinated in 2004, near the end of his prison term, with no shooter ever been found. Amsterdam police said everything was erased as Bruinsma was deceased. Don't forget to like this video and share, and so you don't miss out on new videos, subscribe to the channel and turn on post notifications. Until next time.